Welcome to another episode of the Franchise Academy. My name is Tom Scarta. Glad you could join us yet again. This is our 10-year anniversary actually doing this podcast, which started as a radio show back in New York a long time ago. I'm really excited because I have a veteran from the Army, but also a franchise veteran with me today, Patrick Elgin. So Patrick is I know the family, and I'm not going to get into all that stuff, but Mr. Elgin was is the owner and operator of 14 Sola Salons. If you don't know what Sola is, we're going to give you all the tidbits today. Patrick is in the Twin Cities in Minnesota, as they say, and he is also the chairman of the Sola Franchisee Advisory Board, which we're going to talk about for a minute, because that's an interesting topic that people don't know about if they're not in franchising. Um, he's also received the International Franchise Association's Franchisee of the Year, which is huge, beyond huge. I mean, there's 1,500 franchise companies. Each of those have dozens, if not hundreds, of franchisees, and then Patrick was the franchisee of the year. That is incredible. He also was with he was a commander of 200 soldiers with the 34th Military Police Company in Stillwater, Minnesota. And of course, oodles and oodles of knowledge from being a bachelor's degree earner from Richmond and also a law degree from the University of Minnesota. So, Patrick, it's an honor to have you. Thank you for coming on.
Thanks, Tom. Great to be here.
This is so fantastic. So, so much I want to ask you, and so much I want the listeners to hear. But to start out, give us your version of Sola Salons. What is it exactly?
Yeah, so Sola Salons is the leading company in the salon suite industry. Idea behind this concept is that we rent turnkey studios to stylists so that they can operate their own beauty businesses. And it's primarily hairstylists, but it's also nail technicians, massage therapists, and estheticians, along with several other categories.
Yeah, but you stick mostly to kind of, I guess, health and beauty in a way. Is that
We
right?
do, yeah. And so our build out is set up where every room has its own sink, and we get a little bit into med spa and that kind of stuff as well. But this is like a beauty mall. You can go to Sola and have a service provider for every aspect of your beauty needs.
So the beauty mall, I've never heard that one before. That's great. I'm going to use that. I'm stealing it, Patrick. Using that. So that's a good one. And Sola is the innovator in this. They've been around. They probably created this space. I'm going to venture to say that. You have 14 units, and basically what you're doing here is you're renting out a large space. Let's call it 10,000 square feet or something like that, and then you
Mhm.
chop it up into 20 or 30, like 100 or 150 square foot rooms, and then an individual hairstylist rents it from you, essentially weekly or monthly basis, and it saves them a ton of money from having to open a storefront in a strip mall. It will cost them, 100,000 or more to even think about something like that. So in essence, that's what it is. You're helping people be a kind of an entrepreneur in their own right, even though they're a hairstylist or a tech or a massage therapist. Is that right?
Exactly right. Yeah, this is incredibly low risk for the beauty professional compared to that spending $100,000 to set up her own shop. Typically you're getting into Sola salons for less than $1,000, and then we operate with an easy out contract, and so that you know their uh, their downside is severely limited compared to what it would be to go out on their own and negotiate a lease with a traditional landlord.
Right. So the overhead is so much lower. But they, if I understand it correctly, they are still responsible for the marketing of their business, right? You don't get involved in any of that as the franchise owner, do you?
They do. They're primarily bringing their own clients, but what Sola does do is, we get thousands and thousands of people come into our website every single day, and we try to steer those folks into new bookings for our customers. And we've got a main line here in the Twin Cities. When someone calls our main line looking for a haircut, we absolutely forward that on to our people that we know are looking to take new clients. And so we definitely do try to help them out a little bit in that regard. But you're right, that is primarily their responsibility.
Fantastic. And so you are currently the president of the Franchise Advisory Board for Sola Salons. Can you share with the audience exactly what a FAC is, Franchise Advisory Committee or Franchise
Yeah,
Board?
so advisory boards exist in a lot of franchise companies, and the idea here is let's take the expertise from the folks that are actually out there in the field operating the business, and let's percolate that up to the national headquarters level and try to get those best practices then spread out to the whole system. And so my role on that board as chair is to try to identify those things in SOLA that people are innovating with and bring those to the national company for adoption. And anywhere we can find to make the model more attractive, and that might be to the general public, or it could be for our beauty pros or for our franchisee base. And we do some exciting stuff. Typically meets once a quarter.
That's amazing. And so what I'm hearing then, and because I would have explained it differently only because I was in a different concept, um, and I'll share mine later. But and it's not positive, I'll tell you that. But it's a whole different story. But so what you're saying, and this is something I try to stress with people that are buying a franchise or thinking about buying a franchise. What you're saying is that somebody might have been like a marketing guru in their past career. Now they own Sola, and they figured out some really neat little marketing cool trick, and then they'll bring it to you and say, "Hey, this is what I'm doing, and here's my numbers, and it's working." And then you say, "Hey, let's take this, package it correctly, and bring it to corporate, and maybe we could roll that out for the whole franchise community."
Mhm.
And Sola is that a good summation?
It totally is. And, you had mentioned the Army a moment ago. The Army did this in the War on Terror. They had a special program called CALL, which standed for Center for Army Lessons Learned. And the whole idea of this CALL program was when somebody out in the field comes up with a really good idea, you forward it on, and then the center determines if it is in fact a good idea, and then they pushed it to the whole Army. And the same idea with the advisory board. The people who are actually there where the rubber meets the road, those are the folks that are going to come up with the best ideas. And we need to have really great systems to make sure that those ideas are adopted and not just, only happening in Minnesota or only happening in Connecticut. We want to get those ideas happening in all 50 states.
Yeah. And that's great. And so another value add, for franchising, in my opinion, in that, you have your rules, you have regulations, which is really protecting the integrity of the brand. But as a franchise owner, you get to give your input in a productive manner to help the mission at hand, right? So the mission here would be to build the brand to a national level. So everyone's equity goes up and everybody's doing the same thing, whether you're going to the Sola in Connecticut, as you said, or you're going in Minnesota or LA, like wherever. So I do love that.
Yeah, absolutely.
And my experience was I was in a franchise that was a very low investment, and they let a bunch of people into that franchise, awarded them franchises, and they probably shouldn't have. And so as the president of the franchise advisory board myself, I was just getting complaints and not constructive, like let's do some cool things. So that was unfortunate, but that's the way that one played out. But you're also there for that. Like if people are like franchise owners feel like, hey, they're going in a little bit of a weird direction on this particular item, they could come to you, you do a little powwow, and then you constructively go to corporate and ask for some, change or remedy or something, right?
Yeah, there's absolutely a little bit of that too. But what I would say is, Sola's got a lot of really high-powered franchisees, and so we're really blessed in that regard. And now our current ownership group, TSG, that's a very high-powered organization as well. Really bright people. It's always helpful when your business associates uh, are bright people.
Bright people and well funded is always a good thing too.
Yeah.
I do love that. So, you were in the military, was it 12 years?
Yep, 12 years.
So, thank you for your service, of course. Really appreciate it. Allows us to be entrepreneurs in America. So, thank you for that. How do you think that experience helped you to be a franchise owner?
Yeah, oddly enough, you think about it and it's like, all right, you got guns over here, I got haircuts over here. It doesn't seem like it would translate super well. But what I would say is this, if you're an officer in the military, you're already trained up on how franchises work. Military is all about giving a system and then going out and executing it, 100 times in a row. All over the country, if you walk into a military unit, um, you're going to see things that are very recognizable because everybody got trained on it the same way. And then whether you're in Minnesota or in LA, like you said, everyone knows how to get in formation. Everybody knows kind of the basic steps, the foundational stuff. And that's really what you need as a franchise. A franchise owner needs to be able to learn a system and then go execute on that system and color between the lines, if you will. And That's just translates great. And I think that's why a lot of military vets have success in the franchising space.
It's absolutely true and amazing. There's even a program called Vet Fran that's administered by the International Franchise Association that helps veterans get discounts and special deals when purchasing a franchise. So for those listening, if you're a veteran, keep that in mind. And you can find out more if you go to my website, thefranchiseacademy.com. And of course, the International Franchise Association's website, which is franchise.org. So that's fantastic information, and I appreciate that so much, Patrick. The whole idea of transitioning out of the military, the thing that I have recognized is that the men and women coming out, for the past whatever the years it was that they served, always had a mission and a focus, and they come back, you know, to civilian life, and it's a hard transition for a lot of people.
Mhm.
And what veterans have told me in the franchise industry is that it going into a franchise makes it a lot easier than even a job for that matter, or especially starting on your own. Franchising is much easier because it's like you were trying to say there, it's a direct fit. Franchising and military, you need to be coachable and you need to execute. You need to show up, and it's a team effort. And it's not only the team of your franchise and your franchisees, your I'm sorry, your staff, but the whole franchise company is sort of the unit with that, as I mentioned earlier, mission to build a national brand, and so everybody knows what their daily duty is and what the overall mission is. It's so similar to a military operation, and that
Yeah. I think if you had success in the military, it's a great fit. I think if I was a franchisor, I would be recruiting military vets to be franchisees like crazy. I love the skill set. I love the dedication. If you were successful in the military, then hopefully franchising seems really easy by comparison.
yeah, absolutely, for sure. So, Sola as a business, how do you think it differs from other salon suite businesses or franchises?
Well, it's the biggest. It's the biggest by a lot. I think Sola has about as many locations as all of our competitors combined, so it's not particularly close. And what I'd say about that is we're the biggest because we're the best. We're not the best because we're the biggest. Does that make sense?
I love that. Yes.
So, you know, first off, just great franchisees. And so, you know, you want to surround yourself by people who you can mentor and you can be mentored by. And we've got that here at Sola. And then I think we've just gone a lot further down the road than most of our competitors in regards to um, uh, the professionalism, the operations manual, the layouts of the salons, the design, what people see when they walk into the salon, the IT systems, all of kind of that iceberg of stuff, all that stuff that's below the waterline that you don't see. Sola's just got that in spades.
Yeah. Yeah. Great organization that started great from the ground up. I think that the foundation of that business was great and had great leaders at the beginning, who I've had the pleasure of meeting. And so a great way to go and a great franchise. Um, so for people that are looking at opening future franchises or looking to open up a business, how does Sola fit in for them, do you think?
Yeah, so you're talking about franchisees, not beauty pros, right?
Yep.
Yeah, right. So, you know, you sign up with Sola, the first thing they're going to do is they're going to send you to training and they're going to kind of explain the whole playbook, right? And just give you a really good, just like I was saying with the Army and basic training, right? Like, you got to know what to do. And so they're going to tell you that. And then the two real big things that they're going to do to get you off the ground running is site selection. There's a whole site selection team to make sure that you're putting your salon in the right spot and that you're getting the economics that you need for the salon to be successful and help you get through that first lease. And then once you got the site identified, there's a whole separate team that's going to help you design that salon. And so they're going to do the layout and they're going to I always send back the layout a whole bunch of times and make sure that it gets just perfectly right because that's going to be the layout of the salon forever. And as you kind of alluded to at the beginning of the salon, the idea here is we're renting a big space and then we're carving it up into a lot of smaller spaces. And it's really important that you get that right. Every beauty professional, that space that she takes is very important to her. That's the space that's hosting her business. We don't want any bad spaces in our salons. We want only good spaces. And Sola's got a team to make sure that that happens.
Do you have different size, um, like locations, I guess, within the Sola location? Like if you got 30, are they all 100 square feet, or do you have some that are 300 square feet or something like that?
No, the size does vary. So basically 100 square feet and up. And the idea here is that, you know, obviously that affects the price point. And some people are going to want bigger spaces, more room to spread out. But, you know, the kind of the workstation in a typical salon is about 50 square feet. And so even the smallest space at Sola is about twice as big as the workstation that someone has working in a traditional salon.
Yeah, I didn't realize that. That makes a lot of sense. Okay. Um, and so why would a beauty professional want to do this aside from the expense, right? I mean, they could just typically, so people understand, if I'm a beautician or a barber, I'm going to work at a shop and I'm going to split the cost of the haircut with the owner. And then I'll also maybe get a tip if I do a good job.
Mhm.
So why wouldn't I just go do that instead of going into a salon?
Yeah, so to super dumb it down, that commission is normally 50%. And there's a whole, I could spend an hour talking about all the intricacies of that 50% in a commission salon. Um, but when you think about it, imagine that beauty professional is doing $2,000 a week gross. That means $1,000 is going back to the house, and she's keeping 1,000. Our rents start at 250 a week. And so right off the jump, she's making an extra 750 bucks if she moves her business to Sola. I mean, that's super enticing just as a financial thing, but it's not just the finances because there's also a whole way of life. She's not being told when she has to work. She's not being told what clients she has to take, what prices she has to charge, what retail she has to sell. She doesn't have to, she gets to pick the music that she listens to. She gets to pick the color paint that's on the walls, like all the freedom aspect of it. It's all the benefits of owning that traditional salon in regards to freedom and choice, but none of the drawback and risk, or much more minimized drawback and risk compared to that $100,000 build out we alluded to if she was to go open up her own storefront.
Yeah. Such an upside with really no downside for the what would be the leasee or the beauty professional that's renting out your spot. So I think that's
Mhm.
great.
Yeah.
Um, Not to bring up a negative thing, but what happened during COVID for you guys?
Yeah. COVID was so tough because uh, obviously salons were shut down. Here in Minnesota, they were shut down for 11 weeks, but that varied a lot across the nation. I think Canada was the worst. I think they were shut down for a year or something like that. But the choice that we made in COVID was we weren't going to charge rent to any of our beauty professionals while uh, the shutdown was happening. And so we gave them all the 11 weeks of free rent, and almost all of them stayed. And so it was a very tough 11 weeks.
Mhm.
We tried to recoup as much as we could. Obviously, we took a massive loss. Uh, but when that 11 weeks was over, it was like gangbusters. I don't know if you remember kind of some of the scandals around, well, this news anchor got a fresh haircut and everything was supposed to be shut down, and
Right.
some of those things coming out. But after 11 weeks, there was a lot of people very anxious to get their beauty services and get back into the salons. And so it went crazy once we got the permission to reopen.
Yeah. But the thing that comes to mind, the reason I asked the question is um it's almost like a solo salon is set up for like a pandemic because there's only two
Yeah.
people in the room, the person getting the haircut and the person giving the haircut, and they're behind closed doors.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah,
more
you're totally right. There's separate ventilation in every one of the studios. It's totally private. The when you shut a door at Sola to a studio, it's like you can feel like the pressure change a little bit. Like it perfectly set up for a pandemic. I spent those 11 weeks arguing with the governor's office on how we were different and he should let us reopen. And it wasn't well received. We didn't get permission to open before any of the other salons, but you're totally right on to the extent that uh, you know there's a safety issue. It's obviously far safer to be in a Sola than a traditional open format floor plan salon where there might be 20 or 30 people all sharing the same air.
right, right. And even to go further than that, if I remember correctly, because I've been in many solos over the years, the person could actually just stay in their car, and then the beauty salon professional could text that person, say, okay, we're ready, and then buzz them in because you can't just walk into a solo without getting buzzed in because you need an appointment with somebody to come in. There's also that kind of safety factor as well. People are just not wandering around, the building. So this works well. So it's sort of, in my opinion, it's sort of like COVID resilient and recession resilient because people are going to get their haircut, as we saw. The people were clamoring to get a haircut during shutdowns. It was pretty crazy.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely right.
I love that. So when you think about it, is there any kind of myths that you would be able to bust about the salon suite industry or about franchising in general? Anything come to mind?
Yeah, I would you're going to get out of it what you put in. And a big selling point that a lot of people use is the word absentee. You're just going to put your money in and then this thing's going to take care of itself. One of the reasons why I love this military vets concept is vets love to work. These are the guys, they wake up at 5 a.m. and they're looking for work. Those are the kind of people who are going to be successful. I don't think this is truly an absentee business. You certainly have some of the benefits of being able to set your own schedule, and you want to take a vacation, you take a vacation, but you got to be willing to put in the work.
Yep. Well said. And I couldn't say it any better myself, other than if you're the kind of person that thinks that you're going to get in shape just because you joined a gym, don't buy a franchise because you actually have to show up and do the heavy lifting. You know.
Absolutely.
So this is great. Patrick, I appreciate your time. I know you're busy running a whole plethora of units for Sola, but it's an inspiration to see what you've done with these units. So I just thank you for taking the time to speak with us here at the Franchise Academy.
Well, cheers, Tom. It was fun.
Thank you so much, and we'll see you soon. Good luck.